Hi, this is Alan Shea, and I snuck up on Chris Holden, our incredible assemblyman, and I'm joining him for breakfast to have a little community conversation on selecting a small business here in our community. And he's going to tell us why and, shed some background on how the process worked for recognition in our community. Definitely. And he's throwing down on some grits and sausage. So as soon as he finished that mouthful of stuff, we're going to delve into a good conversation. We're here at the Little Red Hen on Our Society show with the Assemblyman Chris Holden. So join us here because we're going to grab some grits and sausage and some shrimp and have a conversation about our community with our Assemblyman. Chris, why don't you share with us what brought you here today here at the Little Red Hen?
Well, this was an opportunity to recognize Little Red Hen and Barbara as the small business of the year, if you will, for Altadena. She's one of our businesses of distinction, and every year we have a process where we go through and evaluate and get recommendations from organizations, neighborhood, community groups, just regular folk that want to highlight a business that they believe is worthy of recognition and distinction. We take those recommendations, and this district extends from Pasadena, Altadena on the west to Upland and Rancho Cucamonga on the east. And so for each of those communities, there's recommendations that are made. We ultimately select, and they come in and they're actually evaluated by our Small Business Advisory Committee. And then they give me the recommendations, and then we make the final selection. And Little Red Hen was identified as a small business of distinction for Altadena. And what that essentially means is that they are the small business of the year for this community. And so it's a pleasure to be here this morning to present Barbara with the distinction and the recognition that we do for all of our small businesses. And so this has been a great morning, and having an opportunity at the same time to sample the shrimp and grits that has made this institution so popular for decades.
Well, and that's good to say, for decades, because that's a good segue for us. And speaking of decades, why don't you share with the viewers, really, not only do you make sure that the small businesses are recognized here in the area, but why don't you share with the viewers really how important it is to know the history, especially the history that you have here within Pasadena, and seeing an establishment here almost as long as you've been a product here in Pasadena.
Yeah, I think you don't see too often businesses that have been able to sustain over the decades, and quite frankly were in operation when we were kids and that are still here and operating. We used to live on Palisades across the street from Cleveland Elementary School. That was the first elementary school that I attended, and we used to walk down the street to Chan's Market. And so Chan's Market was a place that we were always able to go to, and it was there in the community, and it had been there for so long. And I guess until recently, it was a part of the community. But it's closed, and so we start to see over time, we lose some of the culture of our community. Little Red Hen is still here. It's been passed down through generations, and it takes a commitment. It takes a commitment anyway to be an entrepreneur, to be a business person, to create jobs, and to provide service to the community. And so we just are appreciative of the kind of commitment that Barbara and her family have put forth to make sure that what I will call an institution is still here and being used and taken advantage of every day, because the food is outstanding. And that's very much a part of it. So to be able to come here and to be able to say, parents used to come here, and probably even relatives beforehand, and to know that this business is still here and still lending support to the community and providing a service is to be noteworthy, and that's what we wanted to do, is to recognize them for the great work that they're doing.
And before we let you go, I'm going to have to chime in on one other question that I think would be relevant for the viewers to understand is the staying powers of small businesses in our community, especially when we are faced with recessionary cycles. And what if we are not cognizant of it, the impact it has on us political and economic.
Yeah. No, I think it's important that, like I said before, it's not easy to start and operate a business, a small business. And, there's a need for capital to make sure that there's enough resources to get the business up and going and to sustain it over a period of time and to be able to invest back into it. So it's not easy, but we recognize that whether it's through small business development loans, whether it's working with opportunities to improve the facade of properties to make it even more attractive, to draw folks in. I think those are the kind of things that because we really, when you remember Old Pasadena was, it needed help. It needed to have the city step in and build parking structures and then breathe life back into that area. And our communities like in Altadena that are small little business zones and strips, they need us to be able to step in and be able to help them advertise even what we're doing today, letting people know about Little Red Hen. But I think it's really important to continue that entrepreneurial spirit and pass that along as well, because that's essentially what this country was built on people having a vision, being able to go out and make a difference, to see that vision come to life. And that's what we were trying to be here today about, and that's promoting it and keeping the small businesses in our community alive and not only just alive, but able for folks to make a good living through their business. So we want to make sure that we do everything that gives them a fighting chance and they can succeed.
And last but not least, because you're giving some truly relevant information for viewers to see how integral you are with making sure that they're success and they are successful. I think another probably important point would be to let them know what kind of resources are available and really what is the outreach to make sure that they're in tune with either tax credits or loans or different programs that that's offered through the state.
Well, I think that with the county, because Altadena is a county community, that there are programs within the County of LA that would help provide business assistance. In the state, we have through the governor's Go Biz program, counselors who can work with small business owners to try to identify what their needs are and how they could be assistants in that from that standpoint. But I think at the county is where you get probably the local support that's very helpful for small businesses to learn and to be able to figure out how they can sustain themselves.
Wow. Well, I just want to thank you so much, sir. Assemblyman Chris Holding here at the Little Red Hen, certainly a part of our community, product of Pasadena, and certainly someone who we can stand on his shoulders now to get the next generation ready. And hopefully we'll have more leaders coming out of the Pasadena-Altadena area that will certainly pick up that torch and continue this legacy. So thank you, Chris.
Hey everybody, we're live from the Little Red Hen Coffee Shop, and I'm sitting here with Chris Holden. It's just amazing. I just received an award, and I just don't know how, but it's fantastic. And all the credit to me belongs to my mother, and to God, and to this man here, and everybody that contributed. I'm just in awe.
You just know that your name and the restaurant came to the surface because your clients, your customers out there, they said, we said, tell us who their small business of the year should be. And they told us it should be you.
Wow, that's just amazing. I had no idea. I was just trying. I love to cook and create recipes and keeping in tradition with my mom. Mm-hmm. It's almost not like work, So I love it.
Passion.
And yeah, it's very much so. And everyone feels that they're eating with love, I'm making the food with love. So it's something that I love doing.
This is not corporate shrimps and grits. This is like going in your kitchen at your home.
Mama made it.
Pull up a table, put up
Right.
a chair. That's what this was like.
Great. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Well, I didn't leave too much.
And I wanted to make sure you have one of our first in-house seasoning from the Little Red Hen, and this is for you to take
thank
on
you.
your joining. And I
Thank you.
appreciate you so much for stopping in. I know you're such a busy man.
Oh, well, look, no, it's God bless you.
Thank you. God bless you
Because
too.
I got to say, like I mentioned earlier, being a small business owner takes a lot of courage, takes a lot of risk, but you have a vision, you have passion, and I'm telling you, your business is on the brink of turning into something even bigger. You may have to knock out a wall in a minute because
Yeah.
the people are going to start. They're going to, because there's a lot of change
Well, Sunday,
going on
yeah,
in this community
it-
too. So
total
there's-
gentrification is happening, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
We were so crowded on Sunday. There was no space. People waiting outside, and I was kind of panicking. And my daughter was saying, "Oh, Mom, I love it." I'm like, "You're not in the kitchen cooking, though."
Oh well,
Yeah, but-
I know
yeah.
that's right. Because
Yeah.
right, starts turning into that every day. Got to hire more people. You got to.
Yeah, it's a lot, and I just really was trying to save my mother's dream.
I
I
know
didn't
you are.
want it to die.
No, well,
Yeah.
God bless you. You've done that
Well, thank you
in
so
a big
much.
way.
So we're here today at the Little Red Hen. I have Assemblyman Chris Holden, business owner Barbara Shea, and we're going to have a little discussion here or conversation about 2020. I think that would be relevant for those who are watching the show so that they can get a good understanding of why the outreach program and the understanding of community is so important. So I'm going to start with Barbara, who happens to be my sister, so I'll have to, qualify why I have this special affection for my sister. And because she is my older sister, she's also gave me the guidance of responsibility and commitment to the community that we live in. So I would like for her to share with you viewers who don't know of her, a little of her background so that you can see the relevance and then certainly the relationship that comes between the Assemblyman, Barbara Shea, and the Little Red Hen.
Wow, this has been just a fantastic journey thus this far, and taking on the role of a business owner is more than a notion. I didn't even think about it. I just dove in because it was important for me to continue with the efforts of keeping the Little Red Hen alive and my mother's dream alive. And unbeknownst to me, I was creating something that I had no idea. So the passion is there and it shall continue. And part of being in business, I love for this place to be what it is, a place for people to feel at home and comfortable and feel like Mom made the meal. And a meeting place for people to feel safe.
Before we leave that point though, Barbara, why don't you give a little bit background again, your education, how did you get so involved with making sure the community stay alive and people realize how relevant it is to be active in their community, to get out and vote, to make sure they understand the values of this community?
Well, actually, I would love for this to be a polling place when the time comes. However, I actually was just raised with the ideal that food, shelter, and clothing are essential, and you have to exercise your right to vote. If you don't do that, then you don't exist, and you don't have an opinion about change. We have to vote to change things. Some things get past a lot of people in the community, but look, it's your life and you have to vote. Every vote counts. My background basically, just graduating from John Muir, attending San Francisco State, UCLA, and I finished at Cal State LA. And I went on to get a general contractor's license as well as a manufacturer dealer's license. And unbeknownst to me, now I'm a business owner. And it's just all leading to being able to have an above-ground railroad, because I really do want to help people get together and do their jobs. We have to come together.
And understanding the dynamics, Assemblyman Holden, of someone of that statute with the information, how imperative is that for a community to cultivate a person who has that type of commitment and experience in this community?
Well, I think it really is second to none when you have someone who's grown up in the community, has gone to school in the community, has been part of a family that has owned an establishment that the community would come to, would sit around tables like this, discuss the issues of the day, talk about how issues of civil rights are being hard fought across the nation, to recognize there was still segregation in this community. People who would sit around this table at Little Red Hen, while they ate and discussed how the change needed to happen, and we had to be the change that we sought. And now to fast forward to see the mantle passed through the Shea generation to keep this establishment open. This is a place where, like a church, the churches were sort of central to organizing, not only receiving the Word of God, but also organizing and coming together with policy ideas and strategies to go out and nonviolently seek change in the world. To be here today, 40, 50 years later, and recognize just how far we've come, but also how far we still need to go. And the only way that we will be able to affect the change is at the ballot box. Whether it's at the voting for the top office in the land, or voting for a school board member here in this community. Because even at the school board level, some of those decisions are more relevant and important and immediate to the impacts on families. As we see schools around the communities that we attended for our early youth are being closed. I went to Cleveland Elementary, Cleveland's closed. I went to Wilson, now Wilson's going to be closed. So there's something happening that is systemic, and the decisions are being made to just react rather than fix a problem that will allow these wonderful institutions to stay open and providing educational opportunities for young people in the new generation and generations to come. So there's a hemorrhaging going on, and I think that the political will of making those changes starts with organizing, and then it starts at making your way to the ballot box and making sure that your voice is heard. Because you lose by one vote your position, and then you sit around and cry afterwards, and have nobody else to blame but yourself. So we're looking forward to this upcoming 2020 election season and the first Tuesday in March, and being able to go to the polls. And if you don't like what you see, it's your opportunity to turn it around.
That's great. And with that being said, Assemblyman Holden, before we let you go again, because I think this is a very rare opportunity for people to really see community engagement. In fact, this is probably the first time in my life that we've actually had a roundtable discussion in the Red Hen about politics, about community education, from individuals that's actually individuals of action. And I think that's truly beautiful, so people can see it's not just what we hear in the community, it's actually seeing it and actually putting it before them to say, we come together and communicate the next steps. So why don't you just share with the viewers again, and I hate to sound redundant, but share with the viewers how important 2020 is, especially in the wake of all of the new legislations that's come out. We've had rent control challenges, we have the homeless, and certainly the economic overall still suggests that there's a big disparity amongst those that have it and those that don't.
Well, I mean, these are critical times. I think that you see, and it's been made before, that it's easy without a lot of retribution, without a lot of dicing into the issue of how do we pay for wars that we get engaged in, how do we pay for bailing out corporations. No one really makes that argument, but when it comes to spending money to get people off the streets, to create affordable housing, there's always the pushback that we shouldn't be spending the money there, we don't have enough money. Well, I think that really comes down to priorities. It comes down to how we take what could be a substantial amount of resources and just allocate it differently. That's priority. And so as this election season continues, you have to start listening to what candidates are saying. And are they talking about fixing the core problem or masking over it? Are they talking about taking resources and spending it in areas that the rich get richer, or are they looking at ways to take care of the folks who are living in tents under freeways? And so these are the choices that we have, and I think that it becomes critical for there to be engagement. And what better place to come and talk about the issues of the day and have some serious shrimp and grits at the same time.
Or avocado toast.
Or avocado toast, you know. And, you know, look, we all rode our bikes in this community. We all grew up in this community. When I was elected to the city council, I became the second African American to become mayor. Loretta Glickman was the first. Then when I was elected to the assembly, I became the first African American to be elected to the state legislature from the San Gabriel Valley. When I was chosen to be majority leader, I became only the third African American to be majority leader. Willie Brown and Karen Bass before me. And so when you think about this community and the great work that all of you are doing, the Shea family, and there's contributions there's purpose that's been born into all of our young people who we want to make sure that the next generation, that they have an opportunity to go out, make history in this community, represent, and be able to say that they came from the Pasadena-Altadena community and they're making a big difference in the world. We want to make sure that we have a healthy world, that the climate has been stabilized, and that there's opportunity for growth and development for the next generation, and for entrepreneurs to be able to have the resources to go out and build on what this country is all about in the first place. And people still get on boats, planes, and all other ways to get here for that American dream. This is the American dream. Bringing people from this community into a restaurant like this, Little Red Hen, and being able to engage and support that dream is what it's all about. It keeps hope alive, it keeps us all alive.
So, what would you like to say about the Little Red Hen?
Oh, I'm a regular. I come here at least once a week, sometimes twice, and get dinner too.
And how long have you been coming?
Oh man, a few years on and off, but most recently, you know, it's in the rotation every week.
Well, good. How about you?
I haven't been up here at the Little Red Hen in a while, but I've been here many, many times. And when I do come here, here mostly for breakfast, the food is always good. Good, and I continue to enjoy coming up here.
All right. You. So what would you like to say, Chris?
I've been coming to the Hen for about 15 years now, and I'll continue to come to the Hen because it's a wonderful place to have great food and meet great people. Thank you to the Hen for having this wonderful place in our neighborhood.
This is Alan Shea once again signing off with our Society Show here at the Little Red Hen in Altadena with the Honorable Assemblyman Chris Holden and Barbara Shea, the owner of Little Red Hen, entrepreneur, my big sister. And we just are so happy that you joined us today with our roundtable at the Little Red Hen. Thank you.